The Meghan Markle train wreck continues. I see today that the palace has been issuing a couple of statements. Prince William and Kate deny that they are the racists in question that apparently raised an issue about little Archie, Harry and Meghan's kid, being a, quote, person of color. Which I guess throws suspicion now on poor Prince Charles. Is he the great malefactor? That's if any of this even happened at all. Remember that neither Harry nor Meghan would identify the evildoer in this scheme. But here's the relevant clip of Meghan Markle talking about little Archie. Listen.
In those months when I was pregnant, all around this same time, so we have in tandem the conversation of he won't be given security, he's not going to be given a title, and also concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
What?
What? This is Oprah heightening the drama. You know, she's kind of race artist, but what? Now, here's the point, and this is why this has become a little bit of a global comedy, because I've been sort of monitoring the reaction in other countries. And the reaction is exactly what my grandfather would say if he saw pictures of little Archie. He'd go, the little bugger is obviously white. his mom is lighter than I am or you, and his father is white, so what do you expect the kid to be? So what I'm getting at is we're having a debate about a person of color who is manifestly not a person of color. Now, the reason this raises a serious issue, I wouldn't normally be wasting my time on this, is it raises the deep issue of what I'm going to call the one-drop rule. It's not my term. This is a term embedded in American history, and it's embedded in the history of American racism. The reason the rest of the world doesn't get it is in the rest of the world, if you're 1% or 5% or 10% black, you're not black. You're mixed race or you're something else. And that is the key point. Now, the one-drop rule, which is the idea that if you have any black ancestry, you have a black great-grandfather, that still makes you black. This is basically what Meghan Markle is foisting on poor Archie. She's, in a sense, making him something and identifying him and designating him. And the question I want to ask is, if we want to get rid of racism, isn't the best way to do it to get rid of race? And if we want to get rid of race as a matter of something that matters, isn't the way to do that to celebrate the emergence of mixed race people who are neither this nor that, who can't be, who defy racial classification? I just want to read one line about the one-drop rule before bringing in a mixed race individual right here, my wife Debbie. This is Thomas Dixon, the notorious racist, in his book, The Leopard Spots. He goes, "One drop of Negro blood makes a Negro. It kinks the hair, flattens the nose, thickens the lips, puts out the light of intellect, and lights the fires of brutal passions." Under segregation, under the doctrine that sort of all blacks look alike, the idea was, let's throw them all into the same camp. It doesn't matter if they're 90% black or 50% or even 1%. So this notion of the one-drop rule is a legacy not of slavery, but of segregation and racism. And it's so ironic that this rule is now continued by leftists, by the civil rights industry. They want race to keep mattering. And so here we have Debbie. Now, honey, you are you did your Ancestry. Was it Ancestry.com?
Ancestry.com.
Or one of those.
It was the DNA kit that you spit into and then you send it off and you get... I think mine was like 6 months later. I think it's probably quicker now, but then it was like 6 months later. And then you get this chart, which is very, I always knew that I had a lot of mixed, race and ethnicities and nationalities. So let me explain. So I consider myself Latina or Hispanic. But I have a very interesting mix of DNA from.
Well, let's pause for a
Yes.
second, because Latina. When people say Latino or Latina, they're actually not talking about a race, are they? They're really talking about Spanish-speaking people.
Right. It's
who-
it's an ethnicity. So being Hispanic, when you fill out a chart and it says white and then of Hispanic origin, that means that you are white, white race, but you are of Hispanic origin. So then you check that off. Well, really truly, I would have to check off a lot of boxes.
Right. So
Right.
tell us about the main boxes.
Right.
What are your
So-
main elements of your ancestry?
Right. Well, before I get to that, I want to clarify what my nationality is.
Right.
So I was born in Venezuela. My father was Venezuelan, but he has Dominican blood because his ancestors were from the Dominican Republic. They moved to Venezuela when he was very young. And so I have that on my father's side. My mother has indigenous blood from Mexican American parents whose mother had ethnicity from Spain, or her ancestors were from Spain. My grandfather's ancestors were Apache Indian, and so I have about 12 to 13% indigenous blood because of my mother's side, the Mexican American South Texas side. And then I also discovered that I have about 10% Black African. So from Cameroon, Congo, Western Bantu, Nigeria, and Senegal.
Now, all of that kind of by way of the Dominican Republic through your dad.
I believe that that's where it came from, that was the lineage where it came from. So when I saw this, I was just like intrigued. I loved it. I celebrate it because for me, it's not an issue, but rather an asset. So I love having mixed everything.
No, but what I'm saying is, if for an ideology that wants to divide the world into oppressed and oppressors, right? You would have to say, well, gee, I can't do that, right? You defy that kind of racial
In
simplification.
that case, I'm an oppressed and an oppressor. So
Right, and so is little Archie, right?
Yes.
So what I'm getting at is, but see, I think the reason that we're doing this and the reason we're talking about this is because there's an attempt here to foist a racial identity on people. See, if you didn't do that, the census couldn't have a race question, which is
Right.
becoming more and more obsolete.
Right.
And you couldn't have racial preferences. They couldn't say to you, hey, I'm going to give you an advantage to go to college because you're this or because you're that, because the answer is, no, I'm neither A nor B. I'm actually both of the above. So,
Right.
so what I'm getting at here is that I think this debate over little Archie points to the racialization of our debate and the fact that, I mean, why can't little Archie grow up into a world in which he's not forced to choose?
I wish it wasn't the case. I wish these people would just stop.
Now, when you were in college, you told me that, that like the LULAC, the Latino activists would come to tell us about that.
They were very annoyed at me because, first of all, they thought I was embarrassed to be Hispanic. And that's the reason I didn't want to join their club. I didn't want to join LULAC or La Raza or whatever. And I was like, listen, I know more Spanish than you do. I am very much in that world, but I don't make it an issue. And I'm in America. I'm very happy to be an American. I don't feel the need to be divisive and to tell people that Texas is really Mexico. I'm not really into that. And so they left me alone. But honey, I really do wish that all this racial nonsense and I mean, the only way we're going to fight racism is to just to make it so that people are just people and we don't have to check boxes anymore, and we're just accepted the way we are. And
interestingly, in my view, is that with gender, you have differences that are rooted in biology. Now, I'm not saying that there's no biological aspect to race. There obviously is. But race is the painted face. Race doesn't actually tell you what's on the inside. Right. And so I think ultimately we get closer to the end of racism Not when we have fewer people in the world like little Archie, but we have less racialization of the issue, fewer people who do the stuff that Meghan Markle is trying to do and benefit from.